What is up? Fantasy Pros audience, YouTube channel, streaming live everywhere across the interweb. I am Andrew Erickson, your host for the next hour or so, talking week 9 start sits, breaking down the news for fantasy football. So we have a barn burner on tonight, Thursday Night Football. Mike the Knight White at quarterback for the New York Jets, taking on Carson Wentz and not the Eagles, the Indianapolis Colts. I made that mistake once already this week, will not make it again. He is the Colts quarterback, and we'll see. Is he going to throw another interception on a screen pass? Who knows? Tune in to find out Thursday night. Before I get into the starts and sits for this week, again, the article is over on profootballfocus.com. As you can find, all of my written content is over on pff.com. We're going to get into the news and notes, but first, of course, talking about giveaways from Pristine Auction. So for the month of November, we at Fantasy Pros are giving away a signed Chris Godwin Tampa Bay Bucks jersey, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com. So how do you enter? It's simple. Subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Like now, go do it right now. Don't wait. Do it right now. Chris Godwin's on a bye week. It may not be there next week. Go get it right now. Subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Enter the contest at fantasypros.com/contest. And that's it. We'll announce the winner at the end of the month, so make sure you tune in to claim your prize. As a Chris Godwin truther myself, and as someone that owns him in multiple fantasy football leagues, I cannot tell you how jealous I will be of the winner of this Chris Godwin jersey. So get on it. I know I have a co-manage a team with a friend of mine, and we have Chris Godwin, so I need to make sure that he enters this contest so we can share it in spirit, that Chris Godwin jersey, and rep it every time we see Chris Godwin take the field. But enough news and notes, or we're going to get into the news and notes now around the league. Here's what we have going on. So Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray is currently banged up. DeAndre Hopkins is currently banged up. AJ Green has COVID, or is on the COVID list. So the Arizona Cardinals offense could be looking much different when they take the field against the 49ers. So Kyler Murray has an ankle injury, so that's going to limit his mobility whether he plays or not. I know the initial diagnosis came out. It was like 1 to 2 weeks. So there's a chance he just doesn't play at all in this game. Like, that's definitely in the range of outcomes. So if you have Kyler Murray, I would prepare to at least have a backup plan in place. Now, it doesn't mean you need to pick up Carson Wentz or pick up Mike White and play them tonight. I think you can wait, do yourself some service and wait a little bit longer, but just be prepared. Hopkins has missed a lot of practice throughout the year anyway. He's probably going to play, but how great is, I stopped ranking DeAndre Hopkins as a top 5 receiver months ago because he just wasn't seeing the same target share. He's been playing hurt. So you're not going to bench him. If Kyler Murray doesn't play, then I could see, putting Hopkins on the bench, but I think that you're still going to play him if he's out there as a wide receiver 2 option. There's still a lot of bye weeks on. He's still the alpha in that offense. So AJ Green not being there doesn't really affect DeAndre Hopkins. It really just gives a boost to Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk. So they'll see more targets in the offense. Even Zach Ertz, who I listed as a sit this week, I would probably have to change my stance on Ertz if AJ Green is, ultimately not playing. DeAndre Hopkins is not playing. Guys like that, I would probably have to move Ertz up in the rankings and make my call different on the start sit when it comes to Zach Ertz. Blake Jarwin is not expected to play for the Dallas Cowboys. Dalton Schultz was already kind of taken over for the Dallas Cowboys tight end 1 role, so I don't think it makes too much of a difference. I think that it is helpful, if Michael Gallup doesn't look like he's coming back either, so Dalton Schultz, top 10 tight end, you're going to be starting him pretty much in any single format if you've been riding him. David Montgomery is practicing. He's on track to return from IR. Don't drop Khalil Herbert. I get that Herbert's probably not going to have much value with David Montgomery back in the offense, but running backs get hurt all the time. So don't drop Khalil Herbert. He's been really productive when he's played. He is a prime handcuff that you want to keep, and you never know what's going to happen to a running back that could get hurt. So I think that Khalil Herbert, you want to keep him. David Montgomery, you're going to slide back into your starting role. I don't think we're going to see, a 50-50 split. It's probably going to be Montgomery is going to be the guy. Probably safe to drop Damian Williams, I think, is probably the move here with David Montgomery coming back. Tyrod Taylor, the Houston Texans quarterback, will start, according to David Culley. So, yeah, that's great for Brandon Cooks. That's really all the two is great for. I think it's just a better matchup now for the Miami Dolphins as well. Again, it sounds weird to talk about how, Tyrod Taylor playing actually helps Tua, but it gets rid of or it lessens the chance that Miami just goes in and blows them out. And really, we shouldn't be thinking that anyway because we have two teams that are 1-7 that are playing each other. So it's really hard to just look at Miami and be like, oh, this is a juggernaut, just going to pound the Texans when the Miami Dolphins have been the team that's been getting absolutely destroyed over the last couple of weeks and basically all season long. So I think it's just greater for Tua. He's a start for me this week. Basically, I mean, in my start sit article, it's basically all Miami Dolphins. It's fins up for Miami against the Texans. I like now move Brandon Cooks up your rankings. I think I'm going to move him up probably inside my top 20 at least if he's not already in there. So Cooks is up on the rise, and it makes guys like Nico Collins just someone interesting in deep waiver wires or deep leagues, someone to stash and add. You see if he has an expanded role because Tyrod Taylor has done a lot of things, and I think Taylor is a streaming option now. Like he's actually number one in fantasy points per dropback, which is a cool stat you can find on pff.com. So again, small sample size. He only played like 6 quarters this year, but he was good against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he was good for like a half against the Browns. And I mean, Miami's defense has been literally one of the worst defenses against quarterbacks this year. So again, I know I was talking about Kyler Murray. You need an option to pivot. Tyrod Taylor is available in a lot of different leagues. I know I picked up in a Superflex league, got him stashed on IR along with Jordan Love. So we'll see how that goes. Tyron Smith is not expected to play. Tackle for the Dallas Cowboys. Not great for Dak, but Denver doesn't have Von Miller anymore. So it's probably a net neutral move. Tyron Smith is obviously a great tackle, but the Denver Broncos defense has not nearly as been as effective as it's been in the past or at the start of the year, and they don't have Von Miller anymore. So would not look at that as a too big of a significant downgrade for Prescott. Titans offensive coordinator Todd Downing said he'll be doing the offense a disservice if he jerked the wheel on their run-first identity without Derrick Henry. So Adrian Peterson is going to get the rock at some point. Like he's going to run the football. The Titans are not going to throw the ball every single time. We'll see how game script dictates that. I mean, we're all kind of thinking that no one's going to take Derrick Henry's role, and I don't know. I have this weird feeling in the back of my head that Adrian Peterson is going to get like 25 carries, or well, we were all wrong, and someone did take over Derrick Henry's role. Now, I think that's really probably not going to happen, but we've seen stranger things. So Peterson, pick him up this week. I would not be starting him this week, as I'll get into. I just don't like the matchup and don't know what his conditioning is like. Deontay Foreman is supposed to be active as well, so we could see him split carries. If they're down, they're probably going to use McNichols. Ideally, you want to see Peterson, play a large snap share, get carries. Don't expect him to be efficient. I don't think you benching Peter. It's fair to wait a week. You can be patient with Peterson. You don't need to jam in your lineups. He was a fine pickup, but let's watch. Let's see it. I don't think we're going to be seeing a Peterson 3 touchdown, 100-yard game. You're going to be like, oh, I missed out on it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that you're going to see a modest performance at best from Adrian Peterson. CeeDee Lamb has a sprained ankle. He sprained his ankle on Wednesday. Not great for receivers. We want them to have healthy ankles, as we've learned from Michael Thomas. Having a bummed ankle in any way, shape, or form is not good. So keep monitoring CeeDee Lamb. Now, I will say I fell for this trap with Courtland Sutton a couple weeks ago. I moved him down my rankings, and he had like the best game of his year because he hurt his ankle. So as long as CeeDee Lamb is like practicing and the reports are modestly good, then I wouldn't be concerned about Lamb. Maybe a better guy to play in DFS if people are just like not going to play him. Odell Beckham is on his way out of Cleveland pretty much. So Mary Kay Cabot reports that Odell Beckham was excused again. So he's not going to be playing for the Browns ever again, it seems like. It's kind of like a weird situation where they wanted to trade him, but they couldn't, and because of salary. So if you have OBJ, like you're not starting him, obviously, because he's probably going to be inactive in all regards. So we want to start Jarvis Landry. If you need to drop him, you got to drop him. But he's probably going to end up on another team, I think, at some point if he gets cut. And then he could have more value. But, I mean, receivers that go from one team to the other team, like we haven't seen that necessarily work out super, super well. So it's a lot of question marks. I would try to hold him. I would honestly probably just try to trade him the minute that he lands with another team. I think that's the move. Just kind of get out of the OBJ business. Obviously, if it's a great spot, maybe you hold, but I think I'd probably just be looking to sell. I mean, he's not washed. Like, he's getting open. Like, we joked about, or people were joking around about, his dad posting that video, but he is getting open. Like, he's not washed as a player. He's just, him and Baker just don't have a connection, and it's so apparent that it's holding him back. and he just can't be productive on the Cleveland Browns. So I think that's kind of sums up OBJ, what's going on with him. And that's pretty much all of the news and notes from what's kind of happened on Thursday. Again, Jets, Colts tonight. Corey Davis is out, or doubtful. I think he'll be ruled officially out. So Jameson Crowder, it's probably a decent start if you're looking for a receiver. It's probably my highest ranked guy. Elijah Moore, 6 targets the last 2 weeks, so decent spot. Denzel Mims has actually seen his role increase the most. He's run the most routes last week, so a couple options breaking down tonight's game for the New York Jets and Indianapolis Colts. All right, let's get into some questions here so I can get to those start sits. So Colin Boston, great last name. Pick 2 to start. Tony, Waddle, Gaskin. Heard you rate Tony and Gaskin as great starts in yesterday's show with Joey P, but does Waddle affect either? All right. Well, shout out to you for watching or watching the podcast or doing that, subscribing. Absolutely love to hear that. So I definitely want to play Tony. I definitely want to play Gaskin. But I would say actually with Waddle, I think I have Waddle one spot ahead. I actually had a couple questions about Waddle versus Gaskin. And I think it just has to go with Tony has been kind of banged up, randomly. His ankle was hurt. He hurt his hand last week. He was hurt during the offseason or during training camp. So there's a little bit of injury prone to his game. And I just talked about moving up the Dolphins because Tyrod Taylor is playing. So I would play Gaskin in this case, and I would play Waddle. I'd probably play those two guys. You want to play guys against the Texans. So I think combined efforts from Gaskin and Waddle, however the points are distributed, I think that you'll be happy with the result. So I think that those guys are in great spots. Harry Potter is chiming in to the stream. I love it. Go Gryffindor. I got it in the background. Let's go, Harry Potter. All right. Is Crowder a start tonight? Yeah, I just mentioned him. He's definitely in the back end of wide receiver 3. The Colts have just not been a very efficient defense in terms of stopping wide receivers. He's been pretty consistent getting targets, whether it's been Zach Wilson, whether it's just Crowder is just doing his thing. Like he just puts up boring numbers. So yeah, I think that he's fine this week. Kind of like in a similar ilk of like Randall Cobb was last Thursday night. Like he's fine. I don't think you're going to be like necessarily thrilled with what he does, but I don't think he's going to just get 0 points. Like he's better than like a Zach Pascal or a lot of other guys. Like he's the number 1 player on the Jets I would start this week. Elijah Moore might have more upside, but Elijah Moore's just not playing as much. So Crowder, yeah, I think that he's a solid start tonight. Carmen P was offered Kadarius Toney for my Calvin Ridley hold or trade. It depends on where you're at in your lineup. If you need to win now, like I would say if you're not at least 4-4, then I would make that move. If you have a losing record, you need to start racking up wins. Like Ridley's not going to help you. Like I really don't know when Ridley's coming back. And even when he was playing, he wasn't that great. So we don't know if that's because of his mental health, why he wasn't playing great. So there's a lot of question marks. So it's just, when Ridley comes back, you're gonna start him, and then what if he doesn't play well? He wasn't playing well before. Yeah, so I would probably make that trade unless I had, it's like 6-1, undefeated. If those was really like clearly had like going to make the playoffs, then I would make that. Then I would hold. But if I need wins, I'm a 4-4 team, fringe, 3-5, something like that, I would probably make the move. Because I mean, Ridley, what's his value right now? Like, we don't know when he could literally not come back the rest of the season, and then you have nothing. So unless you're already winning games, then I would probably move him. Adventures from the queue. Stafford or Lamar Jackson this week. Oh, I got to go Lamar. You got to go Lamar. The Konami code, the rushing upside, 69 rushing yards per game for Lamar Jackson this year. I love the matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, I think Stafford is also in a really good spot against the Titans, but Lamar is also just in a great spot. It sucks to have that problem. I think I literally have them back-to-back 2 and 3 in my rankings, so really can't go wrong. I'll go with Lamar. Brian Swain. Who should I start? I need 1 running back and 1 flex. Choose 2. Sutton, Carter, Mixon. I'm starting Sutton and Mixon. God, I mean, Michael Carter's been a great story over the last couple of weeks, but I don't know. I think defenses are eventually going to try to stop Mike White in the check down game. Like maybe we'll see. It hasn't happened yet, so I have to imagine that the Colts are going to be, hey, like he's just going to throw the running backs. Like let's lock it down. But we shall see. Yost Pot, but yeah, I would go in that situation. I go Sutton and Mixon. Yost P, trade Tannehill and Woods for Rodgers. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna Brian Swain. So, you know what? I'm actually gonna go with Carter, and Mixon. Sutton has just been really up and down since Judy's return. Like his targets have not been there, so he's way more boom or bust. Where Carter, I mean, he's the guy. So I'll actually go with Carter and Mixon there. I think that those guys have safer floors. Yospa, Trey Tannehill, and Woods for Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers? No. I mean, we don't. I mean, I don't know. I've never really been that big of a fan of Rodgers this year. He's been okay, I would say. Um, I'd keep Woods. I mean, the Rams have one of the best schedules left for wide receivers, so I would keep him. James Smith. Hi, Andrew. Please help me pick my quarterback 2 in a 2-quarterback league. Tyrod Taylor, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. Sam Darnold might not play, and Baker Mayfield is like playing with a bum shoulder. So it's Tyrod for me, James Smith. I'm going with Tyrod Taylor versus the Miami Dolphins. Brian S., Darrell Williams, or Myles Gaskin. I'm going to go with Darrell Williams here. I know that people are freaked out by this Derek Gore thing, but just like he played one drive really where he got the majority of his touches. And it just happened to be they drove down the field, they got inside the 5-yard line, and he scored. Like he played 3 snaps in the second half, 3, where Darrell Williams played 30. So I think that Williams is still the main guy for the Chiefs. Sure, he could have a bigger role, Derek Gore, but I would still go with Darrell Williams in that situation. Myles Gaskin is just more question marks about him. I know he's got a good matchup, but the Dolphins can't run the football. Like they're just not a good running team in general. So even though they have a good matchup, I don't know how exploitable they can really make it when they can't run block themselves. GH9, full point PPR, flex spot, Bateman or Marvin Jones. I'm going with Bateman. I mean, Marvin Jones, I listed as a sit. Just don't like the matchup. Bills have just been suffocating wide receivers, not literally, but figuratively in fantasy. So I'm not playing Marvin Jones. Whereas Bateman has upside. I think it's a great matchup against the Vikings. They've been a bottom 5 offense in terms of fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. So I'm going with Rashad Bateman. Luis Gonzalez Jr. This name sounds familiar. So someone that's been tuned into the stream. Appreciate you. What's up, Andrew? Need help? Full point PPR flex. Darrell Williams or Kadarius Toney this week. I think it goes with, whether you're trying to weigh upside versus floor. But in this case, I usually will lean towards running back. So Darrell Williams will be the guy here. That's what I'm going to go with. I like Toney a lot this week. He's supposed to start, but Darrell Williams is playing on the Chiefs. They're playing with a positive game script. He's involved in the passing game. Unless Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back, then Toney would be the guy. But I don't think CH is coming back this week. David Gallagher. Hey, Andrew, Carson Wentz or Tua? Going with Tua. Tua's just in a great spot. Like, just such a good spot this week. Houston has been they're awful against pretty much everything, but Tua, 3rd in expected fantasy points per game over the last 3 weeks. He was even decent against the Bills. He had a rushing touchdown, so he wasn't even bad as a start if you started him last week. Let's see. Grant, LA, trade Damian Harris and Woods for Deontay, full point PPR. Yeah, I would do that. Deontay's going to be so good the rest of the year. Pittsburgh has a great schedule. Deontay's got a great matchup against the Bears. I get Big Ben is not the ideal quarterback you want attached to your wide receivers, but in Deontay's case, Big Ben just throws him the ball no matter what. He has a really high target rate, up with Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams. Now, those guys obviously have more efficiency. They score more touchdowns because they have better quarterbacks, but from a target volume standpoint, Deontay should be in the conversation with Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp. So, yeah, I would do that to make Deontay. That's an interesting move because I think I have like similar guys in the league, so I may need to steal that trade and make it my own in a couple of my own leagues. All right, we're going to go into some of the starts, but first I need to quench my thirst. Not be getting the dry throat while doing the live stream. All right, so starts quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. Been practicing that. Miami Dolphins, listed him as a sit last week, nailed it. Even though he wasn't actually too bad against the Bills, he still finished outside the top 12 quarterbacks, so pat myself on the back. I did finish in 4th place in the FantasyPros accuracy contest last week. I was more bullish than I had ever been before. I stopped kind of, I can't rank this guy this high because of XYZ. I kind of stopped doing that. I was like, I can't rank this player. Like, what are people going to think? And I stopped thinking. I was like, you know what? No. Like, Joe Mixon is playing the Jets. They suck. he's number 2 running back this week. And what happened? Oh, he was a top 3 running back because he's playing the Jets. So I stopped really looking too much into the player usage and really looked a little bit more about matchup and just try to weigh like so much can happen in 1 week. So I tried to make that adjustment on my rankings and it worked out pretty well. So Tua is going to be a start this week. Same thing with Josh Jacobs, Las Vegas Raiders. And the experts don't like him. The expert consensus on Josh Jacobs has him outside the top 20, and I'm going against the grain here. I don't really know why it seems like it's wild, but again, I'm being bullish on Josh Jacobs. Big Blue Giants rank 4th in rushing yards allowed to running backs this season. So Jacobs should be a fantasy RB1. Good matchup. He's the starting running back. I think the Raiders win this game. So I like Josh Jacobs. I think it's that simple. So start Josh Jacobs. He's getting a little bit more juice in the passing game the last couple of weeks, a little more love. Not afraid of Kenyon Drake. So start Josh Jacobs. He's fine. He's not on the injury report. His chest injury came from him doing a chest bump after he scored a touchdown 2 weeks ago, which is just bizarre. So Josh Jacobs, ground and pound with the Raiders. You got to love it. Boston Scott. Now, try not to make a mistake like I did with Kenneth Gainwell last week, because that was obviously a utter disaster with Kenny G, just because, he really was more like a Nyheim Hines player, and we would never tout, Nyheim Hines as a massive winner when Jonathan Taylor goes down or something like that. And, that was an oversight on my part, just to kind of plug and play Kenny Gainwell as the next guy when he probably wasn't going to see his role change that much. So it has been Boston Scott that has been the guy when he's the backup to Miles Sanders. He's the direct backup. And now he's got a really good matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers. They have been a quintessential run funnel defense. The Chargers just let teams run on them. They don't try to stop the run. They try to stop the pass. So I think it makes a lot of sense to go with Boston Scott. He's had the goal line role for the last 2 weeks. I know Jordan Howard scores touchdowns, but Boston Scott has also been scoring those rushing touchdowns. I think that should be at least a fantasy RB2. Chargers have allowed the most rushing yards per game to running backs, 132, and the 3rd most rushing touchdowns. So Boston Scott, yeah, I think that you're going to play him if you pick him up off the waiver wire. If you stashed him last week, I know I did in 1 league. I didn't start him, but stashed him. I'm probably going to be flexing him out there in my lineups. Davante Adams, it's weird to put him on the start sit because he's a stud and there should be no question marks about Davante Adams, but I just wanted to bring it up because I know that some people get concerned about Adams when, there's no Aaron Rodgers. What do we do? And this is pointed out by, my coworker at PFF, Ian Hartitz, just talking about how, we've seen Davante Adams before be a wide receiver 1 when there was no Aaron Rodgers. It's happened before. So yes, could he bust? Yeah, it's possible. But I'm going to take Davante Adams, who is the number 1 receiver, arguably a top 3 receiver in real life NFL, number 1 receiver on his team, should see the majority of targets. What do you think Jordan Love's going to do? Is Jordan Love going to drop back and try to find MVS, Allen Lazard? No. He's going to drop back. He's going to look at Davante Adams and throw the ball to him 20 times. Now, how many are those going to be accurate? Don't know. Have no idea, but going to chase the volume with Adams, chase his talent to overcome, it's not like the matchup is bad. They play the Chiefs. The Chiefs defense has not been good all season long. So maybe if it was the Rams, I would be less bullish on Davante Adams. But no, I'm not moving him outside my top 5 guys this week. I think that he's still going to see the targets. And in PPR, that's good enough. You don't need to be super efficient necessarily at the receiver position when it's PPR if he got just 10 passes for 70 yards. You're going to be happy with that. So Davante Adams, you're still going to start him unless you literally are so stacked every single position, which I find it hard to believe, but I will continue to start Davante Adams. And last but not least, Jarvis Landry, I talked about OBJ at the top. OBJ is essentially not on the Browns anymore. Another excused absence today on Thursday. So he's not playing. It doesn't really matter. If you've been watching the Browns, it's basically he's not out there anyway. I don't know if Baker Mayfield or OBJ got the memo that, Halloween is over. He can put away the ghost costume. It's over. He can thrive and try to get the ball. But clearly Baker Mayfield has ghost goggles on because he doesn't see OBJ out there on the field. They're not connecting. There was really 1 week where we could have had a blow up game from Beckham and Baker Mayfield missed him. The last pass Baker Mayfield threw to OBJ literally almost got him killed. So they're not in a good place. And Jarvis Landry, Jarvis Landry and Baker Mayfield have a good connection. Like they actually do connect on a lot of passes. They just have a better relationship, better established rapport. So Landry owns a 28% target share over the past 2 weeks. The Bengals have allowed the second most receptions to wide receivers this year. So I expect Landry to be peppered with targets, especially with Odell Beckham basically out of the picture. So he's not going to be garnering any targets probably. And it's going to be DPJ, Don Peoples-Jones, Austin Hooper, David Njoku. I mean, Landry's better than all those guys. So Landry's going to see targets and volume in this game. All right, let's get back to the start and sit questions so we can make sure that we get everyone's lineup set because Thursday night's happening. Mike White. I'm looking forward to it. Mike White, I know it's of course, after his big game, he's on primetime, and I'm just kind of afraid like he's going to just like lay a freaking egg and be like, well, like maybe he's not as good as we all thought he was when he was just dumping the ball off to running backs, because that's what he really was doing. Like a lot of stuff was dump off stuff. So yeah, I'm probably a little more pessimistic than most on Mike White, but we'll see. Ronnie Rossells, y'all think Patrick will bounce back? So I'm assuming you're talking about Mahomes. Hope not Tim Patrick. I mean, yeah, this happens all the time with quarterbacks. A couple years ago, I mean, Russell Wilson, I remember, was like at one point like droppable in fantasy football because he just was like playing so terribly. Brady's had spurts where he's played terribly. Like this just happens. So he's going to bounce back. I would not be overly concerned. It's really a lot of the reason actually doesn't have to do with Mahomes. It has to do more with the Chiefs' lack of weapons outside Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And Kelce, God, he played like the single worst game I think I've ever seen him play last week. Like he was so bad, like just not doing anything, not catching balls, just not getting like it was bad. So he needs to bounce back. Tyreek Hill, I mean, 18 targets last week is the engine. So Mahomes just needs to, the Chiefs need to make more upgrades at the receiver position. They need guys to step up. So I would continue to. I'm still playing Mahomes. I mean, I moved him down like slowly but surely. Like he's still top 5 quarterback for me, especially with Rodgers out this week. But yeah, I mean, it's just been a couple bad games. This happens all the time. I would not overreact. They're going to right the ship sooner rather than later. I think Andy Reid's too good of a head coach. Mahomes is too good of a quarterback. Bo Jackson or B Jackson. I just put the Bo in there. I just see B Jackson. Just automatically think Bo Jackson. Bateman, Bryan Edwards, or Jameson Crowder for the flex. So Bryan Edwards, I would not just automatically start this week because Henry Ruggs is not on the team anymore. Bryan Edwards is probably going to get a lot of James Bradbury. We haven't seen Edwards really assert himself to alpha status yet. Darren Waller's coming back. He's off the injury report. So, I mean, Edwards should see some more opportunities, but I'm not so sure that, he's just going to see this massive workload. Rashad Bateman, I think, is probably more interesting from an upside standpoint. Crowder's probably safe for a floor. So if you're going into this week, so again, I like just having more time with players. So I think I'd probably start Rashad Bateman, especially in my flex, because I don't want to start a guy in the flex on a Thursday night. I want to have that availability in case injuries happen, COVID happens, weird stuff happens. So I want to have that flexibility. So I'll go with Rashad Bateman there. Ricardo, full point PPR. DJ Moore, but at the same time, Corey Davis is out. So, you know what? I'll go with Jameson Crowder. I think he's probably safer from a projection standpoint, and Sammy Watkins might come back, which could limit Bateman a little bit. So, yeah, I'll go with Crowder in that spot. He's probably pretty safe. Ricardo, full point PPR. DJ Moore, Marquise Brown, seeking touchdowns. That is key, Ricardo. I'm glad that you said that because DJ Moore does not catch touchdowns, especially against the Patriots. And Marquise Brown is going to have a probably massive game. So, yeah, Marquise Brown there. I think that glad you put that in there. Diamond, Kojo, especially because PJ Walker's probably going to start. I mean, not like Sam Darnold was good or anything, but it's not. I mean, we could see him target Robbie Anderson more or something like that. Something weird. Terrace Marshall, who knows? Diamond, Jones, half point PPR, start Cook, Conklin, Smith, or Evan Ingram. I mean, you're starting Dalvin Cook or Jared Cook. Oh, it's got to be Jared Cook, man. I just see Cook, and I may think Dalvin. Conklin in that situation. He's probably my favorite tight end this stream. He's top 8 tight end for me. Ravens have not been good against tight ends. It should be a high-scoring environment, so I like Tyler Conklin. T-Square. Hi, Andrew. Should I start my flex? Elijah Mitchell or Hollywood Brown? Full point PPR. Hollywood Brown. Elijah Mitchell doesn't catch any passes, which is just it sucks because he's a really good rusher, but he just doesn't catch a lot of passes, so I will go with Hollywood. Luez Lazo, which two should I start? Diggs, Keenan Allen, or Pittman? I'm going to start Diggs and Keenan Allen. I think Michael Pittman is just really, really good, but I also think that Keenan Allen's really, really good. I guess I would say if it's a half-point PPR league, I would probably lean towards Diggs and Pittman as my two guys. If it's full-point PPR, I would do Diggs and Keenan Allen. I will hedge myself a little bit there. Keenan Allen's just better in PPR, and Pittman has more touchdown equity, so I like him more in half-point PPR. Dominic G. Andrew, thanks for everything. Appreciate it. No, thank you. You're welcome. Half-point PPR, Darrell Henderson or Zach Moss. Oh, Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson, auto start. You don't even think about taking him out of your lineup. Ricardo, can Arnold keep us up his target numbers against the Bills this week? I think so. I mean, a lot of it's garbage time, which is basically the Jags offense. And yeah, so I mean, I'm streaming Darnold in a couple spots. He's been solid. He's running a lot of routes. So it's not really fluky that he's seeing a lot of targets because he's playing a lot. So I will go with Dan Arnold against the Bills. I think he's solid. The matchup's not great, but you're just looking. You just want targets. It doesn't really matter. The tight end matchups are so noisy. Like, it's really just like, is a team bad overall? And then they're probably going to be bad against tight ends. It's a lot of it's, I mean, teams that play more zone, I think, are a little more susceptible to tight ends, like over the middle, but a lot of it is really tough. You know, it's not hard to see players bust when the matchup says they'll be good and then vice versa. Alexander Glass, start at quarterback, Burrow or Hurts, one quarterback league. I'm starting Jalen Hurts. Dude, look, he rushed for 70 yards last week, and I get that he wasn't good for fantasy, but it's not his fault he didn't play in the fourth quarter. They just scored 4 rushing touchdowns that none of them went to him. Like, if he had scored one more rushing touchdown, he would have scored 18 fantasy points, and he would have been fine. So, yeah, I would not be overly concerned about Hurts. David Lee, Sharp or Gage, full point PPR. I'm never playing Russell Gage. Sorry. Like, I played him in DFS last week. Did not work out. Tajay Sharp, UMass hero. So, yeah, Tajay Sharp. You gotta go with UMass, baby. Here we go. Ryan S. Jordan Love, Mike White, or Teddy Bridgewater. Oh, God, that is gross. That's gross. I'm going Jordan Love. It's crazy. But I'm going Jordan Love. Our PFF projections love Jordan Love, and I know exactly why they love him. It's because he plays with the best weapons. He has Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones to throw the ball to. So, like, when those guys touch the ball, like, just magic happens. Whereas Mike White is throwing to his running backs every single play. I think the Colts are going to, like, key in on that. Like, I'm taking a lot of unders on Michael Carter receiving because it's just so high. Like, the numbers are just, like, bonkers high. It's like 4.5 is his prop. And I got to take the under on it. Like, it's so high. And could I get burned by it? Of course, easily. Because Michael White may just be the check down king that we were promised. You know, Philip Rivers left Philip Rivers and Drew Brees. We lost those guys last year, and we have a new king, and his name is Mike White, and he is the check down king. And Teddy Bridgewater, I'm just like, dude, he's just eh. It's like, eh. I'm not crazy about him. So I'm going Jordan Love. I think that he pushes the pace a little bit more. Patrick Mahomes is going to score points. And, I mean, look, we saw backup quarterbacks thrive last week. So Jordan Love continue to ride that backup quarterback narrative. It is close between him and Bridgewater, though. John Cena. Yeah. Who to start, DeAndre Hopkins or Christian Kirk? Oh, my God. Are we mentioning Hopkins for Kirk? I mean, if they're both playing, I'm playing Hopkins. I'm not going to play Kirk. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think it makes it easier if Hopkins is out, but yeah, I'm going to play Hopkins. So, man, Hopkins, man, he's just been not that good this year. You know, targets are down. He's banged up. So, he is not one of my sits, though. I'll get into all my sits now, talking about some of the sits from today's, let's see. All right. Stream has our sits from last week, so I'm not going to sit Tua because he's not a guy I want to sit this week. I wanted to start him. All right. So some of my sits for this week. Let's see. I've got. So Adrian Peterson is one of the guys I don't love this week. I think that he's in a good spot. He's not in a great spot this week. Look, I just think that you can preach patience with Adrian Peterson. You don't need to necessarily jam into your lineups. You picked him up off the waiver wire. I think that's great. But you look at the Rams defense. PFF has a strength of schedule tool. The number one worst matchup for running backs is Adrian Peterson. For running backs is the Rams. So I would not start Peterson. I picked him up in a couple of leagues. I want to see it play it out. I want to see him get the volume. I want to see him distribute. Like the last thing you want is start Peterson. He gets 10 carries for 50 yards. You got 5 points. Okay, great. Like we don't know how involved he is going to be in the passing game, so that's a concern. So I'm not looking to start those particular players, or at least Adrian Peterson in that particular matchup. Latavius Murray, kind of a similar situation. Baltimore Ravens. I don't know what the touch count is going to shake out with him. I actually dropped Latavius Murray for Adrian Peterson in a lot of leagues this week because I'm like Murray might just get totally phased out. It could be Le'Veon Bell, it could be Tyson Williams, it could be Devontae Freeman. Just it's like a 4-man committee. Like I can't buy into that super with confidence. So Latavius Murray, Vikings defense has been better against running backs over late. They've been bad against the passing game, better against running backs. By the 4th fewest fantasy points per game to the position. So looking to sit Latavius. Honestly, I think that he's a guy you could maybe drop. Like we just don't know how effective he's going to be over the next couple of weeks. So I think that he's a good guy to potentially fade. Now we have the players to sit. We got him in there. Tua is out. We got Matt Ryan. He is a sit this week. No Calvin Ridley. Last week with no Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan scored 8.1 fantasy points, 58.1 PFF passing grade. Leave him on the bench this week against the New Orleans Saints. Allow the 5th fewest fantasy points per game to quarterbacks this season. So looking to fade Matt Ryan. Talked about Adrian Peterson already. Devontae Smith, Philadelphia Eagles. I know I talked about Boston Scott as a start. Devontae Smith is going to be a sit this week. He has not been super productive over the last couple of weeks. I know the Eagles haven't really been throwing the ball that much, but that's probably what they're going to try to do in this game. Like they were fine running the ball against a really bad run defense last week against the Lions. The Chargers have a really bad run defense. So I don't think they're going to be like, all right, let's throw the ball a million times with Hurts. Probably not going to happen. So I think that it makes sense for the run game to thrive. Pass game is going to struggle. So that leaves little margin for error for Devontae Smith to put up a productive fantasy outing if he's not getting volume against the Chargers, who rank number 1 in fantasy points allowed to receivers, the fewest fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. So looking to fade our guy Devonta Smith. Marvin Jones Jr., taking the under on him in a lot of receiving props, like 53.5 yards. I mean, I just don't see like the appeal in playing him. He's playing the Buffalo Bills like the Chargers. Number 2 in terms of fantasy points allowed to wide receivers this season. He's also has just an 18% target share since DJ Chark's injury. His target share is basically the same as Shenault, Jamal Agnew, and Dan Arnold over the last 4 weeks. So it could be any of those guys that like pops off. So my best bet would be just take unders on all of them, and hope that it kind of works out. So Arnold obviously plays tight end, so I think it's a little bit better for him. But Marvin Jones, not loving him this week. And lastly is Hunter Henry, tight end. Hunter Henry was looking like a legitimate tight end guy, an option. He was looking decent because he was scoring touchdowns. Like he had scored a touchdown in 4 straight games, so we're feeling it. We're like, yes, like here we go. Hunter Henry, let's bring it. And he's only averaged 3 targets in his last 3 games. So the targets are not there. So that's an issue. Jonnu Smith is getting healthier, which is also an issue. It's causing his routes run to decrease. So Hunter Henry, I don't think he's going to find the end zone this week. He has to score a touchdown to pay off. And he probably has the same odds of catching a touchdown as like a Mo Alley Cox, so not great. So I don't love it. So the Carolina Panthers have just allowed 2 end zone targets to tight ends this year. And honestly, Mo Alley Cox is probably a better play than Hunter Henry because the Jets have been terrible against tight ends, whereas the Panthers have been better against the tight end position. So Hunter Henry is going to be a bench for me this week. All right, back into the start sit questions. Talked about Jordan Love already. Talked about John Cena already. All right, Chris Harwood, Colts defense or Saints defense? I'm going to go with the Colts defense. Look, Mike White still threw a bunch of picks last week, and I think the Colts defense is probably better than the Bengals. I think the Bengals kind of like sleepwalked into that Jets game. They're like, oh, we're going to roll, and they just like, oh, who is this guy? I think the Colts are going to be more prepared, so I'm going to go with the Colts defense in this situation. Say got him. Thoughts on Elijah Moore this week? So I've actually thought a lot about Elijah Moore. In the shower, I'm thinking about Thursday night. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what's going to happen Thursday night? Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims. So it's really weird because he has 6 targets in the last 2 weeks. That's good. He only caught 1 ball last week because it was just inefficient. This last week caught 6 passes for 6 targets. I was like, all right, that's great. But his routes run are not there. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I was thinking more about this. I was like, oh man, like he's still running behind like Crowder and Denzel Mims and Keelan Cole. And I think that we could probably see that swap in this game. I think we could see him probably play a little bit more. Like there's room to grow, is what I'm saying with Elijah Moore. So he hasn't maxed out. Like if he'd been running all the routes and seeing 6 targets, I'd be like, all right, great. Like he's seen 6 targets, like that's probably his floor. But he actually has a higher ceiling than he's actually had the last couple of weeks because he is seeing targets on a smaller snap count. So it's similar to like Rondale Moore to an extent, where he is seeing targets on a smaller snap share. So it does make his floor a little bit shakier, but I think that if you want an upside play, I think Elijah Moore makes a lot of sense. I'm probably going to play Crowder over him. But I think Elijah Moore at least deserves he should be on your bench. Like if he's on the waiver wire, I think you should pick him up. I think we could see a game from him this week because he has been consistent and we could see his snaps increase. But Denzel Mims has actually been the one that's played the most, running the most routes. So I think that he's probably a sneakier guy. I know that he's not been nearly as popular, but Elijah Moore, the targets are a good indication that he should be getting more involved. Air, Dinger, Crowder tonight, or Hardman versus Green Bay. I'm going Crowder. I'm not playing McCole Hardman. Sorry, it's not happening. It's not. It's like fetch. It's not going to happen with McCole Hardman. Drone Force, Carlos Hyde, David Johnson, or Mark Ingram this week. Oh my God, that is atrocious. I'm going Carlos Hyde. It's gross to say that, but Carlos Hyde catches dump off passes, and the Bills are going to smoke the Jacksonville Jags. So Hyde should catch a bunch of dump offs. David Johnson, I don't even know what he's like. Like, what do we expect? I don't even know how much he's going to play. Like, we don't know what his role is. So Carlos Hyde at least going to start probably with James Robinson out. Again, this is obviously if James Robinson's not playing. You're not playing Hyde if James Robinson's active. And if that's not the case, if James Robinson's active, then I would probably start Mark Ingram over David Johnson. So there we go. A guy called Ed, hey Andrew, half point PPR, running back Chuba Hubbard, CMC / Cordero Patterson. I would start. I think I'm starting Hubbard in that case. Let me check the ranks. I'm leaning on the rankings here. Hubbard like has a ton of work. He's so much volume in the Panthers offense, but he's like not been that great with it. Whereas Patterson, it's been more up and down. I know that he's involved more as a receiver. I think it's half point PPR too, so that does change the script slightly. Of course, they're back to back. Half point PPR, I will give the slight edge to a Chuba Hubbard or CMC. Ray, if CMC, obviously, so you would start him. Ray, Noah, Jefferson, Landry, Cole Beasley, Renfro, Pittman need 2. Landry and Pittman. Those are the guys. I like Beasley, but he is banged up a little bit, so I'm kind of cooling off of him a little bit. Pandito Jr., hey, Andrew Hopkins, Marquise Brown, Connor at the flex, greetings from Germany. I remember this guy from last time. Perfect. Hopkins, Marquise Brown, Connor. Probably go Marquise Brown. Yeah, I mean, Hopkins, I'm just like so done. Like, not like over him, but he's been frustrating. So Marquise Brown is in a good spot. He saw like 300 air yards the last time he played, so I think he makes a lot of sense. Cassidy Leonard, bench DJ Moore for Chase, Claypool, full point PPR. No, I would not do that. I think DJ Moore. Patriots have been susceptible to wide receivers the last couple of weeks. DJ Moore is still the alpha in that offense. PJ Walker should still, PJ Walker is really good in the XFL. So maybe that means nothing, but it does mean he can at least throw the ball and get downfield to some of his receivers. So I would go with DJ Moore. Tyler Pittman or Hollywood Brown. I'm going to go with Pittman. Dylan Thomas, trade Chubb for Justin Jefferson. If it's full point PPR, yeah, I would do that. Maha League, Taysom Hill or Joe Burrow. I'll go with Joe Burrow. I think that I like Hill a lot. I think he's a start. He's a guy I'm streaming. He's like my number one streamer this week, but I do realize there's some risk. And Joe Burrow has been so good. He's thrown 2 touchdowns in every single game this year. I don't think the Browns defense is like that good. I mean, they have a good pass rush, but their secondary has question marks. And Chase, Higgins, Boyd, just elite weapons that Burrow has. Michael Sullivan, hey, Andrew Gaskin or Booker if Saquon is out. Go Booker. Booker is a 3-down back. Like, he has a great role. He's 11th in expected fantasy points per game over the last 3 weeks when he's basically been the bell cow. He's 11th in touches. So, and he's been the number 1 running back in terms of, or 4th, in rate of routes run per dropback. So he's involved in the passing game. So if it doesn't matter what the game script is, Devontae Booker is always involved. He's seeing like an 80% plus snap share. He has a really nice role. I'm like, no, he's not great, but he's still seeing a ton of action. So I like Devontae Booker. Johnny Blitz standard. Drop Landry or Kadarius Toney. Love the Gordon Pats jersey. Yeah, George. This is when he was at the prime. Was when he was on the Patriots. And I know I told people not to pick him up on the Chiefs, and people didn't listen to me. And what has he been doing? Nothing. A whole lot of nothing for Josh Gordon on the Chiefs. Landry or Kadarius Toney standard league. I think this one's tough because Landry's like the number one on his team, and Kadarius Toney I think has like a ton of upside, and I feel like an idiot if I dropped him, and then he like blows up and like makes me regret it. And it's standard, so man, that is tough. I don't want to drop either of them. I guess I'm thinking more. I'm keeping Toney. Look, I made this mistake before where I have dropped rookies, too early, and they just break out all over the place, and they just make me want to hurt myself and just, yeah. So keep Kadarius Toney. I think Landry is still going to be a good player. I think Toney has a higher ceiling. I'd be willing to shoot for the stars with Toney. Seri Strong, Jerry Jeudy or Emmanuel Sanders. I'll go with Emmanuel Sanders. I think he's in a good bounce back spot. We're still kind of seeing how the targets are going to be distributed through Denver. It's like flat across the board with Jeudy back. So Sanders makes a lot of sense. Jacksonville sucks. Their defense is so bad, especially against big plays. And Sanders had a lot of air yards last week. He just couldn't connect with Josh Allen. I think he's going to bounce back. So I think he's in a good spot. The Storm Works team. Should I drop Higbee for Knox? It depends on if you need a tight end this week. I still think you start Higbee. I get that people are souring on him, but the Rams haven't played in the fourth quarter like the last 2 weeks. Like they're taking out all their starters because they keep blowing teams out. So if they're playing in an actual competitive game, which I think the Titans can probably offer a little bit more than like the Lions or the Texans, just basically guys that are teams that are just getting steamrolled, I think Higbee could be in a bounce back spot. So I would keep Higbee. Let's see. Trade Gibson for Gaskin. Oh, God, that is gross. It's a gross trade for everybody. I don't necessarily hate it, though. Myles Gaskin has a really good schedule the rest of the year. And Antonio Gibson, I don't know if he's healthy. I think Gibson's a more talented guy, but we're not really – talent doesn't matter as much when we're looking at this specific situation. Gibson's banged up. They're using more Jarrett Patterson. He's not catching passes. At least Gaskin has kind of like a 3-down role to an extent. It's kind of gross either way. I mean, if you need a running back to play like this week, like you have a losing record, then yeah, I can get behind Gaskin and that trade. Maybe try to get a little bit more, but then again, Gibson doesn't have a lot of value right now, so it's definitely a tricky situation. If I can make that trade in Dynasty, I would try to do that. Maybe I will. I got some Myles Gaskin. I know I traded away Antonio Gibson very, very early on for Henry Ruggs, and that was not good. Not good. Brandon Maddox, Bateman or Jeudy, flex spot, standard league. I'll go with Jerry Jeudy here. I think that he's in a better spot. Dallas is kind of a slot funnel defense and should be decently high scoring. Dak Prescott should push the pace a little bit for the Denver Broncos to hopefully get Teddy Bridgewater just a bit out of his shell so we can maybe throw the ball a little bit downfield. Jonathan Helms, trade Mixon and Higgins for Cooks. Brandon Cooks? No way. No, that's way too much, I think, to trade for Brandon Cooks. I think that Cooks is probably worth as much as Higgins is, really, maybe a little bit more, but no, that's way too much for Brandon Cooks. John Cole, what's up, Andrew? Streaming quarterback this week with Rodgers out. Jordan Love or Tyrod Taylor. I'll go with Jordan Love. I think that he's in a decent spot this week. Chiefs should press the pedal to the metal a little bit more. Let's see. It's Nick M. Packers D or Broncos D. I'm going to go with – I'm not playing the Broncos D. I'm going to play the Packers defense. That's definitely what you want to play. Actually, why are those your two options? Those are not – both of those are really bad options. I guess I'll go Packers D. Mahomes has been a turnover machine, and the Broncos don't have – I mean, Dak Prescott has not been that, so I would go with Packers defense. Before I wrap up the start sits, again, reminder, guys, about the Chris Godwin jersey. So for the month of November, giving away signed Chris Godwin jersey, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com. So how do you enter? It's simple. Subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Enter the contest at fantasypros.com/contest. That's it. We'll announce the winner at the end of the month. So make sure you tune in to claim your prize. Easy money for Chris Godwin. Dips 110, Sit 1, Bateman, Myers, Chenault. Sitting Chenault. It's the second year breakout is not going planned. It's Jamal Swag new season. It's just not good for Laviska Chenault. Xavier Bateman or Renfro. It's an upside floor play. I would probably actually go with Renfro here, and probably in both scenarios. Targets are going to be there. Bateman is been really active, but Renfro he's still locked and loaded to his role. The Giants are a slot funnel defense, so I think Renfro makes sense. Richard Dominguez, if CeeDee Lamb doesn't play, start Bateman or Myers PPR. I'm starting Bateman. The Pioneerito, McNichols or Booker in PPR, going with Booker. Booker's got a 3-down roll. Like, he's a legit bell cow. Like, he's not good. He's not great, but he's a bell cow. So, and McNichols, we just say, is a pass catching back. Like, he's not going to see a 3-down roll for what I would at least expect. Daddy Dubs, David Harris, Zach Moss, or Derek Gore, half full PPR. Like, guys, like, why don't start Derek Gore? Like, don't do it. Like, he literally played 3 snaps in the second half. He had 1 good drive of football. Like, don't start Derek Gore. So, in that case, Damian Harris. Easy. Wallace Owens, Chuba Hubbard or James Conner. I'm going to go with Chuba Hubbard. The dude is just seeing a ton of volume. He's actually tied with Derrick Henry for the most touches of the last 4 weeks. Trevor Duddick, Chase Claypool, or Rashad Bateman, please and thanks. Full point PPR. I'm going with Chase Claypool. It's a good matchup against the Bears this week. Cali Music. Hi, Andrew. Thank you for all that you do. You guys are amazing. I appreciate that. I can't take all the credit, though. We have a great team here. Cousins or Taysom at quarterback. And I'm going to go with Taysom at quarterback. He's got the rushing upside. Atlanta's a really good matchup. And Hyde, Boston Scott, or Drake as RB1/2 PPR. Bart Scott. Boston Scott. That's what I talked about in the start sit. A great matchup against the Chargers. Most rushing yards allowed to running backs. I think he's a good spot. Benjamin Hester, Boston Scott, or Chase Edmonds. This one is close for me. Of course, I got them ranked back-to-back. Man, I hate when you guys do this to me with the back-to-back. It's a coin flip. I'm going to go with Boston Scott. Edmonds is explosive. I love it, but James Conner just steals touchdowns, and Chase Edmonds let me down in the rushing prop last week, so I'm spiteful. So I'm going Boston Scott. Nick Lowinger, should I drop Dearness Johnson for Tony Pollard? Yes, 100%. 1,000% drop Dearness Johnson for Tony Pollard. Robert Coleman, hey Andrew, I need your advice. I need your help for a flex PPR. Landry, Elijah Mitchell, or I also have Parker, Judy, and Claypool on the bench. I'll go with Elijah Mitchell. Even though it's PPR, Elijah Mitchell is so locked into his role as a running back. I think that he's there. I like Elijah Mitchell there. Upper decks. Actually, if he doesn't score a touchdown, then he's going to probably not do well. I'm switching back to Landry. Landry has a high target share. The PPR is kind of like convincing me to go with a wide receiver. Even though I think Mitchell probably has a safer floor, Landry just has a dynamite matchup. He's going to get the targets. The upper decks, 49ers or Dolphins D. I'm going to go with the Dolphins D. Ryan Schill, Colts D or Pats D? Pats D. You got to go with the Pats. PJ Walker, XFL stud, but NFL not stud. Go with the Patriots. David, hey Andrew, half flex, half PPR. Higgins, Waddle, Bateman, start one. A lot of Bateman questions. I do like Bateman this week, but I will go with T. Higgins. He leads the team in target share the last 4 weeks. The matchup is actually better against the Browns than it was last week for the Jets. T. Higgins continues to see downfield targets, end zone targets. He just hasn't scored yet. The big game is still going to happen for T. Higgins, so I'll go with T. B. Silva and Mike White or Wentz. I'm going with Wentz. Mikey B. Trade Michael Carter for Higgins. If I need a wide receiver, yeah, I would do that. But if I need a running back, I'm keeping Michael Carter. Cousins or Tua from Uzi Tua. Daryl Gerhardt. If Tyson Hill plays, start him over Hurt Kyler Murray. Yeah, I would probably do that. Kyler Murray does not play well when he's hurt and when he has an ankle injury. And the one game that he played this year that was bad was against the 49ers. So, yeah. Again, be more bullish, man. Be more aggressive. Most people will say, just start Kyler Murray. Whatever. It's well, if he's not healthy, he's not running, he's not going to be good. So, yeah, I think that I will start Taysom Hill. David Lee, sitting at 3 and 5. Who can I get for CEH, you think? Not much. Maybe Myles Gaskin. That's probably what you're looking at. Myles Gaskin, Antonio Gibson, one of these other guys that's just been really underwhelming. You're not going to get much, unfortunately. Brian Lyon, I'm in the Kyler situation. Best 2 quarterbacks available in my league is Bridgewater and Tyrod. It's a must win for me. Who is my better insurance policy? I'll go with Tyrod Taylor. Last one, Kevin Young, honorary last question. If I had to pick 2 for this week, who would you pick? Waddle, Cole Beasley, T. Higgins, full point PBR. Easy. Going with Jalen Waddle and T. Higgins. I know Cole Beasley went off last week, but he's banged up a little bit more, and the Jaguars aren't as much as a slot funnel as I thought. So I think Emmanuel Sanders has a big week. Diggs has a big week. Beasley, probably week from him. He's banged up a little bit. So I will go with T. Higgins and Jalen Waddle. So that is going to do it for me, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the live stream again. Get into that Chris Godwin sweepstakes for the jersey. You definitely want to get into that. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And week 9 is upon us. We got great game tonight, Jets, Colts. Looking forward to that. Mike White, is he the truth? Is he a ghost? Like, we're going to find out. And it's going to be on prime time, and I just cannot wait to see if things transpire. Michael Carter may catch 20 passes. Who knows? He's a dump-off king. We will see what happens tonight. But, again, if you have any more questions, make sure that you follow me on Twitter, follow FantasyPros, subscribe. Make sure you check out my Start Sit article over on pff.com, and always feel free to ask me any other questions throughout the week. Try to answer as many as I can on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever the kids are these days. I'm still in, people think that I'm like 17 years old because of my face. And it's like, well, hey, it's good to look young. That's what I'll say. So again, thank you all for tuning in. I'll be back next week for week 10. Can't believe we're already in the double digits. It's flown by. I think we're going to be talking about Thanksgiving soon, that fantasy championship. So hopefully everybody is competing. Just get to the playoffs. Like, that's all you want to do. That's the goal. Get to the playoffs. Because once the playoffs go off, like, anything can happen, especially in these COVID times where, like, we don't even know who's going to be available. So again, thank you all for tuning in, and I'll be back next week.